Alright guys, so hello and welcome to Ninja News. I am Ninja Andrew, and with me as always is...
Ninja Misty.
And today we're going to be tackling a bit of an interesting topic. This is in relation to a video that GameSpot put out a little while ago. And essentially it's called How Content is Killing AAA Games. And I really disagree with the position of the guy who's presenting in the video. I can't remember what his name is, man. He's one of their, main editors. I should know this stuff, but, man, I don't care. Fuck. So, essentially, he's saying that, the developers striving towards making more content in games is what's killing them, and he uses the Order 1886 as an example. And while I haven't played that game, I've read a lot of the reviews and stuff about it, and how it was very short, and that's sort of what they're referencing in the video is a game that short, can it still be worth it, or
is it worth $60?
Is it worth $60? Or their position is sort of it doesn't matter how much content you have as long as the game is good. And I think that's a very subjective statement to make, because it's what? So a game with 1 hour of content, but you really like it, is a good game, but a game with thousands of hours of content, but there's just something that you're not a fan of, is somehow that you're poo-pooing that. You know what I mean? It's that's a little bit ridiculous. And then also he says at the very end of the video that it's things are never going to change as long as the industry remains focused on content. And I think that's the weirdest possible statement that you could make, because to me, when I see it, I personally think that it's storytelling that's killing video games in 2015, not content. I think we need more content. We need as much content as developers are willing to make or give to us. But storytelling and the obsessive need to tell a story or show it from a specific perspective, or, you know what I mean, the amount of time that they spend putting into the game, just all of the stuff the cutscenes, or the just trying to all the stuff they're using to try to create emotion and stuff like that, instead of you actually gaming. Another example I can think of in recent memory is The Last of Us. And it's The Order and The Last of Us represent to me a genre of games that I want to call movie games. They're more concerned about being a movie than being a game. You're going to play for an hour, and of that hour, maybe 15 minutes will be spent actually inputting something into the controls and having to do something in the game. The rest of the time is going to be storylines, cutscenes, and loading screens. You know what I mean? Go.
Well, we disagree a little bit on The Last of Us, because I thought there was a decent amount of gameplay in The Last of Us.
A decent amount of gameplay, but they're so concerned with telling this quote-unquote story that it's I feel a lot of the other parts of the game suffer, especially even the story itself isn't that great. It's I know that there's a lot of people out there who think that The Last of Us is the best storytelling that's ever been done in a video game, but it's I'm sorry, but the story is utterly predictable, stereotypical, and cliched 100% to the max. You knew everything that was going to happen before it happened. You know what I mean? There were no surprises at all in the storyline. The only surprise that I can say from that entire series was what happened in the DLC. And even then, I have my own opinions about that, which we'll save for another frickin' episode. But just, you know what I mean? It's another series. I'm picking on Naughty Dog a bit here, but Uncharted. It's any game series that spends too much of its time devoted to trying to tell this cliched, basic, you know what I mean, run-of-the-mill story that everybody knows is what's going to happen. You know what I mean? And they don't even strive to try and actually do anything beyond it. Or if they do, it's something ridiculous. Like, oh, you know, the world is real, everything's real, people are shooting people with guns, but, oh, there's voodoo magic. Oh, you know, run for your life. Voodoo magic. And it's like, man, just because you add in something like that does not mean that you've suddenly made your game, like, you know, intellectual or interesting in any way. You know what I mean? You've just added one more cliched, stereotypical thing off of the list that hasn't been done in a while. You know what I mean? And it's like, to me, for me, the best games out there are games that focus on content, and I'm going to name two of them off the top of my head, but Fallout and Skyrim. And when I say those games, I'm also thinking of things like Dead Island, or, you know, games that are more concerned with putting content for you to actually play, rather than like, oh man, we need to tell you this story, and we need to tell you this story so much that we're not going to do anything else. You know what I mean? Because how many times have you, like, played a game or, like, they've been developed... Oh, thanks, Zemos. I see how this is. Maybe I can, like, car surf? There we go.
Sure.
But, like, aww. How many times have you seen a game in development and the developers have said, oh, you know, like, we would have really liked to do, you know, multiplayer or, you know, add some other features, but we had to focus on the story. You know what I mean? And then you look at the story and it's like, but bro, the story wasn't even that good, and now I've gotten to the end of your game and there's nothing left for me to do. Sure, I could go and, like, you know, go back and get the trophies and go back and get some, like, you know, weird feats or something that you want me to do, but at the same time I've already played the game. Especially if it's like a movie, it's like, if I've already watched your movie, I'm not going to watch it again, and I'm especially not going to come home every night looking forward to watching your movie over and over and over again. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, it's like, if you really take it down to it, if you can remove as much of the storyline as possible, as much of the time where you need to be doing something where I'm not playing, and instead change it into something where it's an actual feature or something that I'm actually doing, i.e. content, you know what I mean? Then that would improve the games, like, wholly across the board. You know what I mean? It's like, if more games could be like Skyrim or Fallout or Dead Island and offer, like, an expansive world for you to play in, a playground, like also Saints Row, that, you know, now that we're playing this, it's like, or because we just happen to be playing it while we're talking about this, it's like, this is a perfect example of, like, what good can come from content. You know what I mean? The parts in this game that kind of get stifling are when it's like, oh, you need to do another storyline mission, or you need to do another mission, so go back to the ship. Please go back to the ship. You know what I mean? Oh, nice. I like your parking job.
My parking job?
Well, on my screen, see, you are currently nosing your Catmobile up the wall of the building.
Oh, well. Okay, on my screen, I'm driving headlong into traffic in the wrong lane.
I see. I wish you could have seen what was on my screen. It was pretty good. Maybe I'll upload that as a shared video with Share Factory, just because then people will know what I'm talking about.
But then it makes my driving skills look less epic than they really are.
Speaking of driving skills, as I come across your car parked into a road support, or I guess rail support structure.
That was intentional. Thank you very much.
I meant to do that.
Exactly.
But what's your opinion on content versus that? Because you know what it's like when we play a game where it's like, oh man, they need to tell you that story, and they're gonna, like, literally, like, stop you from controlling anything and rip the camera over in some direction for you to look at, and you just feel like you're going to hurl. You know what I mean?
Well, for me, it really depends on the game that I'm playing, because I understand if I'm playing a game that has a specific story-driven agenda, that I'm going to be part of the story. Right. You know what I mean? Where I run into problems is when you feel like the story, and you already touched on this, is taking up so much of what you're doing that your actual gameplay is so limited, you feel like you're being ripped off.
Yeah. Even if the game looks fucking amazing, has the best graphics, has, you know what I mean?
Here's an example that comes to mind, and I have a lot of opinions about this game, Dying Light.
Sure.
I enjoyed playing Dying Light. They definitely had a story that they were telling. The problem that I ran into with Dying Light is it was over very quickly. If we had not had all of the technical issues that we had, we would have been through that game in probably a week.
And done. And there's nothing left to do. Like, there's no reason to go back to that game at the moment, because there's literally nothing to do in that world.
And while I enjoyed it, and it looked amazing, and it felt good playing it, it was a good experience as far as, like, yeah, I had a good time when we were playing it, but it evaporated so quickly. And then what they're giving you in your DLC content is so far from anything to do.
Yeah.
It's like, here's a bunch of weapons, here's a bunch of clothes, here's these 2 missions that are going to take you 10 minutes tops. But way out here in the future, when you've already moved on to playing something else, we're going to give you Horde mode.
Yeah.
It just seemed very backwards to me. And
well, it's like, that's what happens when the focus is put on, we need to make this story, and we need to tell this story, and that's all we need to do in order to have a successful game, and we don't need to even think about what are people going to do once they finish that. Because if you haven't put in that thought, what are people going to do when they finish playing your game? Most likely, if there's nothing else to do, they're going to move on and find another game that has lots of stuff for them to do. You know what I mean? And it's like, how hard would it have been for the makers of Dying Light to be like, man, let's just make airdrops a continuous thing. Let's add in, some, like, continuous challenges that you can always do aside from challenging a player to a competition. You know what I mean?
Now, what I will say about Techland is they seem to be very responsive to what people are saying, and they're trying to kind of broaden that experience for you. I know they added in, like, the super hard mode at night, but for me, it's like, those are decisions and things that should have been done before the game was put out there and you took my $60.
Right.
And, that starts to bleed into other issues. They're all interconnected, but it's hard to find really good, solid gaming experiences, and it's one of the reasons why, we played DCUO for so long, is because it was this kind of dynamic experience that you were having up to a point.
Right.
And it was your journey. You were kind of writing your own story there, which is the same with a lot of MMOs. And I know, obviously, you hold Skyrim in really high regards. Yeah. I haven't played it really, if you want to get down to the brass tacks of it, really at all.
Yeah. It's all good. Someday I'll convince her. But
I wouldn't hold your breath, but yeah.
Write a comment and tell Misty that she needs to play Skyrim, guys.
Yeah, well. Sure, go for it.
When you do find one of those games that you really do like, the suggestion from somebody else that there's too much content, you know what I mean? Does that not come across as a bit fucking, like...
Well, I want to make sure that the content is something that is worthy of my time. I don't want that they should throw in content that's, mindless and repetitive, and you think, why did they put this in? Because now I just want to, rip my face off if I have to go do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You want the content to feel like it's worthy of your time and worthy of the game. Like, you want to feel like you're playing the game. But I'm just saying that's like, if they were like, hey, we're just going to keep making content for Saints Row, or hey, we're just going to keep making content for any of these games, would you be like, no, sorry, there is too much? Because
I'd love, and we all know the answer to that. When you have a game that you really, really enjoy, you do want to extend the experience out. And that's what's disappointing when you do have a game that you enjoy playing and it feels like you're being stopped short. Right. That's frustrating as a gamer. At least, from my perspective.
And I just noticing that it sounds like from everything that we've said that it's like the more time that you can feel like you're actually playing the game and are involved in doing that, and rather than not playing the game, the better. You know what I mean? And I think that's the actual measure of, like, a good game for me. I'm not going to measure it based on, you know what I mean, like, just X, Y, or Z, but it's also like, how much enjoyment can I get out of, and longevity can I get out of playing it, And that's what's going to inform my decision. So give us your opinions in the comments, guys. Let us know what you think about content versus storytelling in video game, and what you find to be, more interesting or more, I don't know, appealing as a video gamer. And, thanks for joining us, and join us again next time. And do you want to sign us out, Misty?
Sure. You guys know where to find us. Like, subscribe. Make sure you give us your comments and any other pressing gaming news that you want to talk about. Let us know. And join us next time for more news on Dork Ninja Gaming.